Thank you very much, Mr. Bercow, for accepting this interview with Simaye Azadi. Let's start with this question. In recent months, we have witnessed that the Iranian regime has increased the number of executions. Why do you think the regime has started this journey of executions at this time?
Execution mania is not a display of strength. It's a sign of desperation. It's an admission of weakness. In answer to your question, why is the regime now executing on this industrial scale? I think the answer is they are very, very, very frightened. They know the skids are under them. They are hugely unpopular around the world. They are a pariah state. They know too, deep down, that they're a failed state because not only have they no popular support, they can't run a country in a remotely competent way. Public services are collapsing. There isn't even a proper functioning water supply. There is large-scale, almost rampant, pervasive poverty. And yet they want to cling on to power because these people are deluded. They're not democrats. They don't believe the public has a right to choose its leaders. As I've said many times, the Iranian government, the mad, mendacious mullahs, think that the purpose of government is that the people serve them. They don't seem to understand that it's for the government to serve the people. Knowing they have no public support, frightened of opposition, not wanting to give up their power and privilege, they resort to murder. And of course, we need to ram home the point that the death penalty is used on a scale in Iran greater than in any other country of the world. But I repeat, it's not a display of strength, it's a sign of weakness. And we have got to reiterate over and over and over and over and over again that there is an alternative. People should not despair. There is nothing inevitable about the regime continuing. There is everything inevitable about the regime eventually collapsing. And the reason for that is the power of hope, always everywhere without exception, eventually triumphs over the power of evil. What is not an alternative to mendacious, murderous mullahs is a monarch, an unelected, aristocratic, entitled monarch who thinks that by virtue of historic lineage, family connection, the power that used to be, he has got the right to come over the water from a position of immense wealth and privilege and to take the leadership of Iran into his own hands. That is simply not a credible proposition. So what do I mean? Reza Pahlavi is not a credible alternative to the murderous, tyrannical dictatorship in Tehran. If I am communicating to the mass of people and I ask them to think of their own lives and of something as straightforward, sometimes challenging, but as straightforward as applying for a job, wherever they live, wherever they are in the world, they will have to produce a CV, a curriculum vitae, which says who they are, what they've done, what their track record of experience and achievement is. If Mr. Pahlavi were invited to produce a curriculum vitae, it would say at the top his name, Reza Pahlavi. He would probably want, pompously and self-importantly, to add the words Crown Prince. Underneath that, jobs done, work experience acquired, teams built, missions accomplished, record for this company or that company or the other company or for this public institution or that public institution or the other public institution, those categories, those parts of the form would be completely blank. I repeat, completely blank. This is someone who has lived off vast wealth, principally in the United States, for several decades. He has no track record of achievement. He says that his name is well known. Well, his name is well known because his father was one of the most egregious tyrants of the 20th century. The Shah of Iran eventually was forced out, and Mr. Pahlavi has made his life elsewhere. And apart from the fact that he's done nothing and has no serious credentials for leadership, there is one enormous disqualification that he has, and that is that Mr. Pahlavi is on the record as saying, and I quote, "I am proud of my heritage, my family's history, and everything they have done." I repeat that last part of the sentence, and everything they have done. What I would say to people listening to or watching this interview is this: we've all got families. We're all proud of our families. We can all be proud of our parents, our brothers, our sisters, etc. That's natural. But when you are bidding for public service, to say that you are proud of everything your family has done when your own father was responsible for large-scale murder, for extrajudicial punishment, for disappearances of very great numbers of citizens, and for a long-standing dictatorship over oppressed people, you cannot credibly say that you're proud of that. And by the way, I want to be the next leader of my country. It simply isn't credible. It doesn't work. If I can put it this way, it doesn't hang together. If Mr. Pahlavi is proud of everything his family has done, including everything his father did, he has, in political terms, signed his own death warrant. Somebody who says that, somebody who thinks that, somebody who continues to believe that his family's track record is something of which to be proud, cannot put himself forward as a potential leader of his country. Or if he does, he hasn't got a cat in hell's chance of succeeding. So the autocracy of the Shah is not an alternative. The return to feudalism, the sense of privilege, the notion of a kind of royal or aristocratic entitlement is completely inappropriate. And if I may say so, it is out of kilter with the times. We live in an age in which people expect to get on through their own efforts, their own talent, their own hard work. And the other thing about the Pahlavi crowd, if I can put it this way, is that they, as well as being feudalistic, are, as far as I can tell, very chauvinistic to boot. It's a male-dominated mass of people. But women don't seem to get a look in at all. The alternative of the National Council of Resistance of Iran is a complete contrast with the Pahlavi autocrats and chauvinists. Mrs. Rajavi is a strong, determined, independent woman. She's got great support and followership from other women. And she's got, very importantly, the support of people of different backgrounds, of different occupations, of different experiences, and of different ages. Whenever I come to an NCRI event, one of the things that I find most striking is that the audience is diverse. And everybody is committed, whether they're young or old, whether they're working class or middle class, whether they're people employed in the professions or whether they're students. Whatever they do, they're all committed to a free, democratic, egalitarian, non-nuclear, secular, pluralist Iran. An Iran in which government is of the people, by the people, for the people. That is the fundamental and irreversible change after which we all hanker. That's what we're striving to bring about. And in these circumstances, what one has to recognize is that we are engaged in a battle of wills between people who want democracy and people who want to preserve dictatorship. The dictators may think they're winning, but the worse they behave, the more execrable their conduct, the greater the number of killings that they commit, the more they discredit themselves. If I can put it this way, those of us who believe in freedom, in democracy, in the rule of law, in an independent judiciary, in gender equality, in environmental stewardship, in a free market economy, in regular elections, in constitutional government, are going nowhere. We are going to keep making the case again and again and again in our own countries, across Europe, in the United States and beyond. And there is no force on earth that can stop the triumph of democracy.
As we were speaking before the interview, one of the interesting facts that you told me was that when it comes to Iran, and you also mentioned that in your speech yesterday, people from different political backgrounds, as they say, from both sides of the aisle, they are, let's say, they gather together for the cause of free Iran or supporting the Iranian opposition. Why do you think people do that? Because we have people from different political backgrounds. When it comes to their own issues at the country, they're not very much, let's say, friendly together. But when it comes to this cause, we see people from different factions on the same table. Why is that?
I think it's because the choice in Iran is so clear-cut between dictatorship and democracy. I think that's what explains the fact that in my own country, the United Kingdom, people of left and right and centre parties alike support the National Council of Resistance of Iran. In the British Parliament, there are people of goodwill and democratic credentials who disagree on those subjects, on the Middle East, on Turkey, Cyprus, on Kashmir, and people disagree not just between parties, but within parties, because they will often differ about the historic rights or wrongs of the situation. In relation to Iran, there is no real discernible difference of opinion at all. In the British Parliament, in my experience over 22 years, I never met a colleague who supported the Shah of Iran. I never met a colleague who said, I supported the Shah of Iran. And I never met a colleague who said, I support the religious dictatorship. Everybody agreed that there was one appalling dictatorship, then followed by another, which represented a massive betrayal of Iranian public opinion. The mullahs seized power and have clung on to it despotically and barbarically ever since. And my parliamentary colleagues, whether they're Conservative or Labour or Liberal Democrat or from other parties, all see that. And that's why when I was at the rally, I saw Labour members of Parliament that I know who are champions of the NCRI, and I met again for the first time in a number of years Boris Johnson, who was a Conservative Prime Minister, who was championing the cause of democracy in Iran. And it was a point I myself was keen to make, that we can disagree about other things. Boris Johnson and I are not personal friends. We disagreed very strongly about a number of things in Parliament, including during my time as Speaker. But we all came together across the party divide yesterday because we think in relation to Iran, there is a clear choice. Do you put up with the depraved regime that exists, or do you cheer for an alternative? And we all want to cheer for an alternative. There is, if I may say so, one other point. Yes, I believe in the NCRI. I believe in Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan. I believe in Mrs. Maryam Rajavi as a person of extraordinary fortitude, strength, moral fibre, unmistakable character. But I'm arguing for democracy, and I've never heard Mrs. Rajavi talk about power for herself. And I've never heard her say that she is the designated leader of her people. She's never argued that. What she says is that she's the leader of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and she would want, of course, to put herself forward and the shadow government forward as a replacement for the present regime. But she wants there to be a new constitution and a 6-month period in which we transition to a new government. And that is on the back of elections by the people. And I know in my heart and in my head, I know it in my every bone, that Mrs. Rajavi would accept the verdict of the people. Now, I'm confident, given her qualities, given her strength, given her character, given her manifesto, given her potential appeal, that she would be victorious. But she's prepared to put it to the test. And we all, supporting the NCRI, and I find this amongst members of the NCRI, are very clear about what democracy means. Democracy does not mean one person, one vote, once. It does not mean one person, one vote, once. It means one person, one vote at regular elections in which people have the chance to choose who represents them, and by implication they have the chance to change their choice from time to time, because that is the nature of democratic politics. Now that is what distinguishes Mrs. Maryam Rajavi and the NCRI from the government of Iran, and her belief in gender equality, full-scale democracy, separation of church and state is what makes the NCRI stand out from any other alternative that might put itself forward. I believe that she and the NCRI would win, but they have trust in the people. I repeat, government of the people, government by the people, government for the people. That's what we in the United Kingdom and people in most of Europe and in the United States enjoy. And that's what we want for the people of Iran.
Thank you very much. So I have another question about yesterday's gathering. We heard that the organizers said around 100,000 people were supposed to gather in Paris. There was a last-minute ban on this demonstration. What do you think about this?
I thought the cancellation of the demonstration yesterday was quite the most shameful capitulation to the will of the government in Tehran. Now, I'm not a judge, and the judge had to make his ruling, but the initial cancellation, of course, was a cancellation by the French authorities. This was a demonstration organized and booked months ago. It was no threat to anybody. It would have been, in common with all of the other demonstrations by the NCRI, in which I have myself participated over the years, a peaceful, democratic, loving demonstration of people coming together against dictatorship and in favor of democracy. It posed no threat to public order whatsoever. The only threat would have come from people objecting to our democratic protest and trying to provoke conflict or even violence. Now, the idea that a properly organized, duly booked, officially sanctioned demonstration should be cancelled at the last minute because of a threat stated or thought to come from opponents who might provoke disorder is anathema to those of us who believe in freedom. The saddest thing is that this should be done in France, a country that is home to the very notion of liberty, equality, and fraternity. As somebody said yesterday, ruefully, pithily, and powerfully, France, you're better than this. It was shocking. I was completely amazed. And of course, it caused disruption. But did it stop us meeting? Did it stop us making our case? Did it stop us communicating, not least through the magnifying glass of the media? It did not, and we're going to continue, and we're going to make our voices heard, and there will be other demonstrations in the future, and there will be rallies, and there will be mass protests against the regime. But I think the French authorities really ought, in the cold light of day, to recognize that what they did yesterday was wrong, and it frankly was an essay in cowardice.
Thank you very much. So we are nearing the end of this interview. But I want to ask you one question before that. That's a personal question about your experience with the Iranian resistance. You have been in politics for many years. I think you are the longest standing Speaker of the House of Commons, and you've met many leaders, many political groups, many people from different countries, and you have a vast experience of knowing what is right and wrong, and you have advocated that for many years. What I want to know about this is that, can you share with us your personal experience or a memory that you have? Why are you supporting this resistance? What is the most striking point about the members of this resistance? Can you share that with us?
The most striking feature of the National Council of Resistance of Iran is the spirit of sacrifice and solidarity. And if you ask me to recall a particular experience, I remember a couple of years ago when I was attending an event of the National Council and I was due to speak. And before the event took place, there was a lunch. And I was sitting opposite a lady whom I knew, but not especially well. And in the course of conversation, I asked her if she was a mother. And she said yes, she had had a son. But her son had died fighting for democracy in Iran. Immediately, on a purely human level, I felt both enormous sympathy for her and an acute embarrassment that I had caused her a painful memory. And I felt apologetic, and I think if I remember rightly, I said, I'm sorry for bringing up bad memories. And what struck me about that lady, whom I know, was the quite extraordinary calm and stoicism about her. And she smiled at me and said, no, not at all, Mr. Bercow. I am very proud of him, and I continue the struggle because what he was doing was right. And the thrust of what she said to me, if not in these exact words, was she wasn't continuing in order to get mad, but in order to get even. She wanted to continue the struggle in which her son had been engaged with a view to achieving victory. And so, over a period of 22 years in Parliament and nearly 7 since I left Parliament, I can honestly say to you that I've never come across anywhere in the world a group of people amongst whom so many have made personal sacrifices. Because although this lady struck me as exceptional, and in terms of quality and character and courage, she was exceptional, she's probably not that exceptional within the NCRI, because I know her story is replicated by not even tens or dozens or hundreds, but probably by thousands of others right across the NCRI, the Iranian diaspora. There are people who have stories to tell about sacrifices they've made, loved ones that they've lost, parents or grandparents or uncles or aunts or children who have perished at the hands either of the murdering monarch, the Shah of Iran, or the murdering mullahs today in Tehran. And so these people are united by a spirit of resolve to achieve something better. And no doubt there are freedom fighters with similar experiences around the world, but inevitably these interviews are personal. And you said that this question was a personal question to me. What I'm saying to you is I myself have never witnessed anything like it. And when I spoke at, I think, the largest event at which I've spoken so far, apart from public rallies, the largest conference I've spoken at was in Washington last November. I think I said on that occasion I had never attended a conference indoors in an auditorium that was so charged with electricity as that event. I had never witnessed an atmosphere quite like it. And as I say, it's not a crusade fired by hatred or hostility. It's a crusade that is fired by a passion, a positive passion for freedom, for democracy, for human rights, for the rule of law, for universal justice. And as long as this fight goes on, I want to be part of it. But not for the sake of the fight, for the sake of the goal. And the goal is the freedom for the people of Iran, which we in Britain have so long enjoyed, and they have for far too long been denied.
Thank you very much, first of all, for sharing this memory with us. It was very personal, I think, for you, and it was very moving, of course. This resistance is, the journey of this resistance is, of course, riddled with stories of sacrifice like this. And for our last demand, if you have any message for the Iranian people who will be watching this interview on Simaye Azadi, what would that be?
My message to the members of the resistance units and Democrats in Iran is, please, please, please remember this. You have never been forgotten. Those of us outside of Iran who are supporting your campaign for freedom know about you. We know the names of people who have been murdered by the regime. We know about the thousands of resistance units. We know about the people of Ashraf 3. We feel that we are, in a sense, almost honorary members of your families. So you're not alone, you're not neglected, you're not forgotten, you are supported. And you're not supported in a minor, modest, minuscule way. You are supported with a lion's roar. You are supported with a lion's roar. And I, for one, and I'm going to roar for you for as long as it takes to get the result that you deserve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bercow, for this wonderful interview.
Is that okay?
Thank you, it was perfect.